Censorship is a big thing. Censorship in polygyny is a big thing. When husbands can't sit down and talk to their wives about polygyny, whether they're going to do it or not, the conversation about polygyny, whether he wants to practice it or not, should be had at the appropriate time. Assalamu alaikum, peace. It's Fatimah, Coach Fatimah, 1/3 of Outstanding Personal Relationships and co-author of the book, Let's Talk Polygyny Uncensored. Now, in this video, I want to address another really powerful topic, and that's the topic of, being married to a man that is toxic. Now, I really don't like to go there, but I'll go there. Because people are typically toxic. Men and women, husband and wives can both be toxic. So I want to just say that right off of the jump. It's very important to state that because we can get into these headspaces and we think just because a man has another wife, that then that automatically qualifies him as being a toxic person. Some may say so, some may say no. And that just is what it is. People are going to disagree. I don't care what you do. I'm a practicing Muslim. I've been Muslim for a very long time, over 20 plus years. And this is part of our culture. Polygyny is part of the culture of Islam. It predates Islam, matter of fact. So I know we get a lot of attention because of polygyny and the men that practice it. Now, toxicity, like I said, can be, I don't look at it as something that has a gender. I look at it as something that has an agenda, but I'd say that because you got to look at how you act around people when you don't feel your best self. You got to look at, what are your daily practices? What are you reading? What are you putting in your brain? What are you putting in your heart? What are you putting off into the world? How are you communicating with someone? If your communication is toxic, then your relationship or relationships are bound to be the same. Oftentimes, people pick up on our energy. People pick up on the vibrations that they get when we even enter the room because our energy will speak for us before our mouth ever moves. And we have to understand that when you are married to someone, you're living with someone, you're loving someone, it's not always easy. Because you have to take on some of the things that make them them and decide whether you're going to celebrate it or try to destroy it or try to make things better between you. It's all a decision, and we forget that we have a lot of power in our lives to be a good influence or a bad one, a positive one or a negative one. We can be a peaceful, calm spirit, or we can be an evil spirit. It's really up to us. The people we hang out with, the stuff that we put into our brain, like I was saying before, and the conversations that we have about our spouse to ourselves. We got to understand that we have to be able to have enough self-awareness to evaluate whether or not what they're doing is really toxic or not. Now, that's not to say that there aren't some toxic brothers and sisters out there or husbands and wives out there. They fit the qualifications of being toxic and abusive and being tyrants, and nothing that you do is right and everything that you do is picked apart. You don't have a voice at all. Not that your voice isn't being heard, you just don't have one. So censorship is a big thing. Censorship in polygyny is a big thing. When husbands can't sit down and talk to their wives about polygyny, whether they're going to do it or not, the conversation about polygyny, whether he wants to practice it or not, should be had at the appropriate time. And not to play with it, It's nice to kind of joke and be light in our relationships, but when we really need to get focused and have a really honest discussion with one another about marriage, about polygyny. I don't care if you're in monogamy or in polygyny, which is another form of marriage. Hard conversations need to be had. And when you avoid conflict, it just keeps festering and growing and growing. And it doesn't even have to be a conflict. It can just be a conversation. So oftentimes when we come into a conversation about toxicity, whether we want to talk about polygyny, whether we want to talk about marriage, whether we want to talk about money or bills or bonus babies or our children or how we want to, create goals with each other. And then how do we want to create individual goals, right? The conversation can be had, but we need to make that environment safe to have it. And we don't always have the tools to do so. But one thing I do know is that we have the ability to listen, to learn, and to be very peaceful in doing so. Peace doesn't mean that we are agreeing, but it just means that we're taking in both sides in a nice, cordial manner and then coming up with a plan. Coming up with ideas, coming up with a timeline, coming up with some certain conflict resolutions. Because sometimes we get in conflict and then we don't know how to get ourselves out of it because we've dug that hole so deeply, that we don't know how to get up out of it. How to deal with toxic people. We're always told, and I'm a firm believer in it, that we need to make dua as Muslims, to my Muslim followers. We do, and we need to quit diminishing the fact that that is an option for us. And it's also, understand this, sometimes when people are being toxic, they don't even know that's a thing. They don't know they're being that until they're told or called on it, and I'm not saying call them out and cause all this drama. I'm saying that they might not know that something that they said is hitting you in such a way that it feels like you're not safe, or it feels like you're not in a good mental space with your spouse.
Assalamu alaikum, peace. I'm Coach Fatimah, one of the co-founders of Outstanding Personal Relationships. And I'm here to talk to you about the Nourishing Fulfillment Counseling Program. What I do is help women from all walks of life obtain information in the areas of relationship wellness, emotional resilience, self-confidence, and inner discovery for best results for their future success. Growth is about implementation for best practices, for best results for your future. So the Nourishing Fulfillment Counseling Program is here for you to help you kind of weed through some of those negative thoughts of self-limiting beliefs so that you can move forward and attain your goals so that you live a truly fulfilling life. So if you want to join me for my Nourishing Fulfillment Counseling Program, be sure that you visit me at CoachFatimah.com for details and start your Nourishing Fulfillment Counseling session today. I'll see you and I look forward to working with you. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.
It feel, and think. We got to figure out what it is and what are the identifiable factors with our specific spouses that might be triggers for them. I don't care if it's the husband or the wife. That might be triggers for them. That might be things they're scared to bring up. A lot of this stuff is fear, insecurity. They don't know they're doing something to you until you tell them they're doing something to you. And if it just keeps going, we know that divorce is allowed and marriage is allowed. Marriage and divorce are both allowed, and we have to just really make sure that we exhaust every effort before we have to make that ultimate decision. And nobody can make that decision for you. The OPR team is not going to tell you, you need to get a divorce, you need to get it this day, and this is why, and they're not going to give you the terms in which. We're just going to tell you what are the best practices for best results and what is going to happen when you don't have those best practices in place. Some of it is from experience. Some of it is from clients that we've worked with and them being so gracious as to share their stories anonymously. Some are from questions. Some are from the trauma. The information that we get is from the trauma from growing up. Being in toxic families, being in families with drug addiction, physical, mental abuse, dealing with narcissists in our families, dealing with alcoholism issues, and death, dying, and destruction. So we know it's there, and I specifically know it's there because I had a very rough childhood and witnessed my grandparents not like each other all the time, and it was not pretty. And I was too young to remember my parents not liking each other. So I grew up in a very, it was aesthetically beautiful, but it was mentally horrible. So I know, I get it. And I've gathered so much information and didn't even know I was, because I'm gathering it through trauma. Now, if you have to make the ultimate decision, then that's something that you have to do. Husbands and wives do have to think sometimes, is the relationship, curable? Is the relationship healthy? Is the relationship abusive and toxic? They got to think about that stuff. So it's a great question. It's a great topic to speak on. It's not easy to think about other people, going through such horrible atrocities and traumas and trying to figure out their way out of it. But one way is really identifying and evaluating honestly the situation that you're in, not the he got married to another wife, he's toxic automatically. Because then you got to think about what your self-evaluation and having self-awareness enough to know that you can't just go, well, he got married to another wife. That makes him toxic off the rip. There's nothing else going on. I'm happy with him outside of that. That's not the same thing. So, it's a valid topic. It's a very powerful situation to go through and try to navigate your way out of, because there's still some life to be left. We don't know how much there is, but we do know that we have a lot more power. And if you don't, I'm here to tell you, you have a lot more power than you think you may have, because we do have the power of education, and we do have the power of study. And we do, first and foremost, have the power of dua. And I had to really understand that I had to take my own power back, because I gave my own power away when I started saying things that were self-limiting beliefs and putting all these restrictions on myself, and nobody asked me to. I was my biggest critic and my worst nightmare when I would get in a dark place. So when you're in a dark place, turn the light on. And part of that is personal development and bettering yourself. Now, with that, I'm going to let you guys go, but before I do, I'm going to leave you with a little GLC. I hope you guys got some gems from this video. I like talking to you all. I love it. I like teaching and training and coaching. And if you guys are interested, make sure you all are following us on our socials at Outstanding Relationships on IG and Outstanding Personal Relationships on Facebook and YouTube. Gonna leave you guys with a little GLC. Make sure you're growing intentionally, loving fearlessly, and connecting on a higher level every single day. And for details about our coaching, check out outstandingpersonalrelationships.com/store. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.